Thank you for taking the time to join this session, Managing Stress with Intention Practical Tools for Sustainable Well-Being. Whether you're watching this during a workday, at home, or in between responsibilities, I want to begin by acknowledging something important. The fact that you are here already tells me you care about your well-being, and that matters. This workshop is not about eliminating stress completely, because stress is a part of being human and a part of the big work and high responsibility roles that we play. Instead, today is about learning how to understand stress, listen to it, recognize how it shows up for you, and respond to it and work with it intentionally and sustainably. This is a space for reflection, not judgment. Everything shared here is meant to support you, not fix you, because you are not broken. You are human. My goal here is to help people start managing stress by noticing and understanding it first, instead of immediately trying to fix it. Before we begin, let's take a moment to arrive. We are going to start with a grounding exercise. Make sure you have a quiet space and comfortable seating. Wherever you are, place both feet on the floor and gently straighten your posture. We're going to take 3 slow breaths in through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Let's begin. Let's inhale. And exhale. Another deep breath in. And exhale fully. One more time. In. And out. And notice this. If your mind is racing, that is okay. I kindly suggest that you simply notice it and gently choose to bring your attention back to this moment. Throughout the session, I will come back to this idea to first notice and then choose. Now, we can begin. Let's start with a simple question. What is stress? Most of us think of stress as feeling busy, overwhelmed, or having too much on our plate. But stress is actually much more than that. At its core, stress is the body's built-in survival system. It's something we're all born with, and its main job is to keep us safe. We are going to explore what's really happening by looking at the physical, emotional, and psychological effects that we may experience. When your brain senses a threat, whether the threat is physical, emotional, or psychological, it sends a signal to your nervous system to prepare for danger. This happens automatically without you even thinking about it. Your body goes into what is called often a fight, flight, or freeze mode. You might notice your heart rate increase, your breathing becomes faster or more shallow, your muscles tighten, your mind becomes more alert, focused, or even hyper aware. Essentially, your brain is shifting into a mode prioritizing safety over everything else. This response is incredibly helpful in real danger. If you're about to step into traffic or needed to react quickly to avoid harm, this system would be exactly what you want working for you because it'll keep you safe. The challenge in modern life is that our nervous system often cannot tell the difference between a real physical threat or everyday stressors. Things like emails, deadlines, or difficult conversations, financial worries, or feeling judged can all activate the same survival response. Even though these situations aren't life threatening, our bodies often react as if they are. Over time, when this system is activated again and again without enough energy to rest or recover, it starts to wear us down. The body stays in a constant state of alert that can lead to physical tension, emotional exhaustion, mental fatigue, and eventually burnout. So, stress isn't about what's happening around you, it's about how your nervous system is responding to what it perceives as a threat. And learning to work with that system is going to be a key part of managing stress in a healthier way. I want to take a moment to talk about something that often gets lumped together: stress and burnout. We all experience stress. Stress is what happens when demands temporarily exceed our capacity. It can feel overwhelming, exhausting, and even emotional. But it is usually tied to a specific situation or season. Burnout, on the other hand, is what happens when stress goes on for too long without relief, support, or recovery. It is not just being tired, it is a deeper kind of exhaustion we feel that affects how we think and connect. Let me give you an example. Imagine an average working adult, particularly during a busy week. They have multiple deadlines, meetings stacked back to back, and a long to do list that keeps growing. On top of that, they have responsibilities waiting for them at home, family needs, household tasks, and very little time for themselves. They feel anxious, they're tired, maybe a little irritable or short tempered. Their mind is racing and their body feels tense. They might notice they're sleeping less, thinking about work constantly, or feeling overwhelmed by everything they need to get done. But underneath all of that, they're still engaged. They still care about their job, their responsibilities, and the people around them. There's a sense that this is temporary, even though it's uncomfortable. They might think, wow, this is a lot right now, but once this week is over, I'll be okay. Or I just need to get through this and then I can rest. Stress, this it's challenging and exhausting, but it's still motivation, meaning, and belief that relief is possible. Stress feels heavy, but it still lives in the space of caring and trying to cope. Now imagine that same person after months of constant pressure, long hours, and little time to rest or recover. At first, maybe they were just tired or stressed, but over time, something shifts. Instead of feeling anxious or motivated to push through, they begin to feel numb, overwhelmed, disconnected. The things that once mattered start to feel heavy or meaningless. They might notice they're more irritable, more exhausted, less present with people around them. They may feel like they're starting to detach from their own emotions. They might think things like, I don't even know why I'm doing this anymore, or nothing I do seems to make a difference. There is a loss of energy, but also a loss of meaning. That's burnout. It's not just being tired, it's what happens when stress goes on for far too long without enough support, rest, or recovery. Burnout affects not only how we feel physically, but also how we think, how we relate to others, and how we connect and feel about ourselves and our purpose. So here's a simple way to remember the difference between stress and burnout. Stress often sounds like, I'm overwhelmed, but I still care. Burnout, on the other hand, sounds more like, I don't care anymore and I don't have anything left to give. That difference might feel subtle, but it's actually really important. Stress still carries a sense of engagement. You may feel tired, stretched, or frustrated, but there's still some emotional energy there. Burnout feels different. It comes with a sense of emptiness, detachment, or hopelessness, like the tank is completely empty. We can see this pattern show up in parenting too. A stressed parent might think, this week has been really hard. I just need a break. A burned out parent might think, I feel like I'm failing and nothing is ever going to change. One voice is asking for rest. The other voice is questioning meaning, identity, and capacity. And that difference really matters. It matters because stress and burnout need different kinds of support. Stress often needs things like rest, help, and time. And it might mean taking a break, getting more sleep, asking for support, or lightening the load for a little while. Burnout means something deeper. It needs boundaries, repair, and meaningful change. It might involve rethinking expectations, shifting roles, addressing chronic overload, or reconnecting with purpose and values. In that way, stress is usually a signal to slow down. And burnout is a signal that something deeper needs to shift. And simply being able to recognize which one you're experiencing is already a powerful step towards caring for yourself more intentionally. This is especially important in high demand positions. Stress is incredibly common though, and it's not a sign of weakness. It's usually a sign of you caring about what you do. So when work involves responsibilities, relationships, and emotional investment, yeah, stress is a natural byproduct. But stress is not a personal failure. It's a human response to caring, to responsibility, and being engaged in something that matters. The goal isn't to eliminate stress completely, but to understand it, respond to it wisely, and notice when it may be turning into something deeper that needs attention. Stress does not look the same for everyone. For some, stress shows up physically: headaches, tight shoulders, stomach issues, fatigue. For others, it appears emotionally: irritability, anxiety, numbness, and sadness. For many, it appears behaviorally: snapping at others, withdrawing, procrastinating, or overworking. And for many, stress also shows up cognitively in the way we think. This might look like difficulty concentrating, racing or repetitive thoughts, memory problems, constant worry, or feeling mentally foggy. The important thing to remember is that stress is not just one thing. It affects the body, emotions, behavior, and the mind. And it can look very different from person to person. The important thing to remember is that stress is not one thing, it affects all components of us. the body, emotions, behavior, and the mind. And remember, it will vary from person to person. It's also possible that one response we may notice it can feel like an overlap. For example, emotional and physical, or behavioral and cognitive. To notice and recognize is foundation to awareness of how stress shows up for you. First, let's take a moment to notice and choose. How does stress usually show up in your body? How does it affect your mood? How does it affect how others treat you? How does it affect how you treat yourself and others? I invite you to pause the video at any point and take a moment to write if it feels supportive to your process. If you're unsure where to begin, start simply. Picture a few words, phrases, questions, or immediate reactions that stand out to you. You might notice something that resonates, something that surprises you, or something that sparks curiosity. Allow your notes to be honest, organic, and exploratory. This is a space for reflection and not perfection. The goal is not to have fully formed answers, but to begin noticing what is emerging for you as you engage with awareness. This awareness is powerful. You cannot regulate what you cannot recognize. It's also important to acknowledge stress and how it shows up for all of us. We all already have ways of managing stress, whether we realize it or not. Most of us use what I like to call stress busters. The things we do to help ourselves deal with stress in the moment. Some stress busters work better than others, and that often depends on individual lifestyle, our interests, preference, opportunities, and also the circumstances or the nature of what is stressing us. So here's another short activity. I want you to think for just a minute about a time when you were stressed and you found a way to manage your reaction and your feelings in a healthier way. What did you do? What helped you come back to yourself? Or if a specific moment is not coming to mind, think of a stress buster you use regularly. What is something you do for yourself that helps you relax or reset? Feel free to pause the video If you'd like to take a moment to write down one or two examples. When you're ready, come back and we will build on that awareness together. Sometimes stress is a signal that we need to reset, take action, or need reassurance. Let's explore what this means. Sometimes when stress is showing up in our body, it's a way of asking us to slow down and rest. This might happen when we're overwhelmed, overworked, or emotionally exhausted. You might notice this kind of stress is in your body as heaviness, fatigue, tension, or feeling drained no matter how much you try to push through. In these moments, adding more strategies, more productivity, or even more positive thinking can actually make things worse. Whether your nervous system is really asking for a pause, space, or recovery. This could look like taking a break, getting more sleep, stepping away from responsibilities for a moment, or simply allowing yourself to slow down without guilt. Sometimes stress is a sign that we need action. This is a kind of stress that comes from avoidance or procrastination. It might feel like a low level anxiety that just sits in the background, or a sense of being stuck, restless, or unsettled. In these situations, calming techniques alone won't resolve the stress because the stress is coming from something that needs to be addressed. This stress is asking us to move, to decide, to set a boundary, to have a conversation, or to take one small step towards something we've been putting off. In this case, action is what creates relief. And other times, stress is asking for reassurance. This happens when we feel emotionally threatened, insecure, or unsafe. You might notice this as self doubt, fear of failure, feeling disconnected, or questioning your worth or competence. In these moments, what we need most is not productivity or problem solving, but compassion and connection. We need reassurance, whether that comes from ourselves or someone we trust, or from being reminded that we are supported, capable, and not alone. The key idea here is that stress management is not about always wanting to do more. It's about responding wisely. When we apply the wrong response, stress tends to stay stuck. For example, trying to stay positive won't help if your body truly needs rest. And trying to calm yourselves won't resolve stress if what's actually needed is action. The stress doesn't disappear because its message hasn't been heard. This is where the reflective decision point becomes so powerful because it acts as a bridge between our inner work, like noticing our thoughts and reframing them, and our outer work, like setting boundaries or making changes in our lives. It helps us slow down just enough to listen to what stress is communicating and choosing a response that actually supports us. So instead of asking, how do I get rid of the stress? We begin to ask, what is this stress asking of me right now? And that shift alone can completely change how we relate to stress in a more compassionate, intentional, and sustainable way. Now, we're going to shift into three practical stress management tools. These techniques include breathing techniques, thought framing, and energy and boundary awareness. These are simple strategies you can use in real life, even starting right away. They don't require special equipment or a whole lot of time or a complete lifestyle change. They're meant to be accessible and realistic, especially in the middle of busy days, demanding schedules, and real world responsibilities. My goal here is to help you approach stress with awareness first rather than effort. So instead of pushing yourself to fix stress or make it go away, the focus is on learning how to notice it, understand it, and respond to it intentionally. Often, when we feel stressed, our instinct is to try to do more. We push harder, we stay busy, and look for quick solutions. But these tools invite a different approach. They ask us to slow down just enough to become aware of what's happening in our body and mind, and then choose a response that actually supports us. Each of these tools works with your nervous system, your thoughts, and your energy, helping you build a more sustainable relationship with stress over time. The goal isn't to eliminate stress completely, but to learn to meet it with more clarity, compassion, and choice. The first tool is simple breathing techniques, very much like the one we started out with. Slow breathing is one of the fastest ways to calm the nervous system. The simple inhale through the nose, a gentle pause, and to exhale slowly and fully through your mouth is repeated. It can be for however much you would need it. But this simple technique s- signals a safety message to the brain. So as you try this, take a moment to notice first, how is your body physically responding? Pay attention to any small shifts. Maybe your shoulders soften, maybe your breath feels a little deeper or your jaw relaxes. You might notice a sense of warmth or even just a slight slowing down. Then, once you've noticed these changes, you can choose to breathe using these breathing techniques again as needed. Because you're forcing stress to disappear, but because you're responding to what your body is telling you. As the physical weight of stress begins to lift, even slightly, you're reinforcing a sense of safety and regulation in your nervous system. The second tool is thought framing. Stress is not caused by events, but by the meaning that we assign to them. Notice the difference between I can't handle this to this is hard, but I can take the next step. We're not pretending everything is fine. We're choosing language that supports resilience. So ask yourself, is my inner dialogue helping me or harming me? What we really want to understand is what stress is actually asking of us. Is it asking for rest, action, or reassurance? Stress isn't one single experience and it doesn't always need the same response. Sometimes stress is activating. This kind of stress is where your body feels tense, your thoughts are racing, and your nervous system is on high alert. In these moments, calming strategies like breathing, slowing down, or grounding can be really helpful because they signal safety to the brain. Other times, stress shows up through avoidance. This might look like procrastination, feeling stuck, or knowing that something needs to be addressed but putting off. In these situations, calming alone won't resolve the stress. That's often what is needed will be action. That might mean making a decision, setting a boundary, having a difficult conversation, or taking one small step forward. And other times, stress comes from feeling emotionally threatened or unsafe. This might show up as self doubt, fear of failure, or disconnecting or unsupported. In those moments, what we need is reassurance, compassion, connection, and being reminded that we are capable and not alone can be far more regulating than any technique. This is why certain strategies don't always work. Positive thinking won't help if what your body really needs is rest. A calming technique, such as breathing, won't resolve stress if what is actually needed is action. When we apply the wrong response, stress tends to stay stuck. This is why this reflective decision point is important. It invites us to pause and ask simply but powerful questions. What kind of stress is this? What is this stress asking for right now? Rest, action, or reassurance? This moment of reflection will be the bridge of your inner work and your outer work. And it helps us shift from automatically reacting to stress to responding to it with intention and care. At its core, stress management is not about doing more, it's about listening deeply and responding in the right way for what we actually need in that moment. But not all stress is the same, and not all stress needs the same response. So, this is where reflection becomes essential. At this decision point, we ask ourselves one simple but powerful question. What is stress asking of us right now? And finally, the third tool is boundary and energy awareness. Stress often comes from giving more than we, and it happens when our energy, time, and emotional capacity are stretched so thin that there's very little left for ourselves. And over time, this kind of overgiving quietly expands our bandwidth beyond what is sustainable. And we begin to live in a constant state of depletion. This can show up in really common ways. Saying yes when we're already exhausted, skipping breaks because there's always one more thing to do, being constantly available to others, whether through work, family, or even our phones, without giving ourselves space to recharge. These patterns often feel normal, especially in high responsibility roles where catering to others is a part of the job. But when they become the default, they create chronic stress because our nervous system never gets the signal that it's safe to rest. The powerful part is that it doesn't always take a big change to make a shift. Sometimes one small boundary can significantly reduce chronic stress. That boundary may look like taking a real lunch break, turning off notifications after a certain hour, or saying no to one extra commitment, or protecting a window of time just for yourself. Small boundaries send a big message to our nervous system. They say, my energy matters too. And over time, these small choices create space, more balance, and a more sustainable way of showing up in your life and your work. Now, I want to invite you into a simple but wonderful practice that includes identifying, choosing, creating small goals, and repeating for consistency. Start by identifying one stressor that is within your control. Not everything in our lives can be changed, but there are often small pieces of situations that we do have a small influence over. This might be how you respond to a certain trigger, how you manage your time, or how you take care of yourself during stressful moments. Next, choose one tool that fits your reality. The goal here is not to create a perfect routine or completely overhaul your life. It is to pick something that feels doable and realistic within your current schedule, energy level, and responsibilities. Then make the goal small and specific. The smaller and clearer the goal, the more likely you are to follow through. Instead of saying, I'm going to manage my stress better, try something concrete, like this week I will take 3 slow breaths before responding to stressful emails. These small actions may seem simple, but they are powerful. Small changes, when practiced consistently, create lasting impact. Over time, they help retrain your nervous system, build new habits, and create more supportive relationships with stress in your everyday life. Stress management is not a one time fix. It's not something we figure out once and then never have to go back and think about it again. It's a practice, something we return to again and again as life changes, demand shifts, a new challenge arise. In many ways, it's similar to physical fitness. We don't build strength or endurance through one workout. We build it through small, repeatable choices. Over time, the emotional regulation, it works the same way. Each time you pause, breathe, set a boundary, or just a more supportive thought, you are strengthening your capacity to respond to stress in a healthier way. It's also important to remember that you deserve care not only because you worked hard and you take care of others, but simply because you're human. You don't need to earn rest, compassion, or support. Your nervous system needs care as a basic part of being alive in a demanding world. So I want to thank you for investing in yourself and in the work you do each day. Taking the time to reflect, learn, and build awareness is already a meaningful step towards well being.